Hello and welcome back. In today's video, in our Docker series, we're going to continue with the command line interface, and we're going to discuss Docker attach and Docker execute. Okay, let's begin. So I'm going to bring up a Ubuntu 2004 shell utilizing the app from the Microsoft App Store. And from here, from the last video, we worked on Docker run. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, I encourage you to go back. We learned about Docker run, so I'm going to go ahead and type in the following, where I'm going to do a Docker run. I'm going to tell it to open up an interactive terminal. I'm going to remove the container once I'm done so that I don't have to stop it or exit it. I'm going to, just as a refresher, so that we can just practice, we might not use it in this video, but we're going to attach our volume from our local, from this shell, to the data directory that will be created on the container. Let's give it a name of NetMet, and then we're going to run Ubuntu bash, and I hit enter. Give it a second, and up comes our bash shell for Ubuntu. If we do a quick ls-l, you can see right here we have our data directory, and everything is working just fine. Let's just do a quick cat of data hello world. There it is. And we know that we have it in there. So we're good to go here. I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to bring up a second Ubuntu 2004 Windows Subsystem for Linux shell on top of Microsoft. Again, we're not in a container. If I do a Docker PS here, we can see that we have a container up. It's already been running for almost a minute. This is just an example. It might not have too much utility, but it is good for us to just learn. We're going to pretend that we need to, from this shell, attach to this container that's already running. This will be more useful when we run our container in detached mode with that -d for containers that are actually running something. But if you try to start this Ubuntu container with no command whatsoever, it'll just start and stop. It'll be a clean start and a clean stop, but since it has nothing to do, the container will just pretty much die out. Let's actually show it. So if we do a Docker run, and we don't issue a terminal command, we say let's run it in the background, and we're going to run Ubuntu, and that's it. That's all we're going to do. If I hit enter here, my container will come up, but if I do a Docker ps-a, just so I can see all of the containers, you'll see that this container started and exited pretty quickly. And that's by design. If you do not issue a command, again, it will not do anything. It'll just exit out. So let's go back to our example. So again, if we do a Docker just ps, we'll see that now for about 2 minutes we have this Ubuntu container. And we want to attach to it so that we can do something, because let's just pretend it's running in the background in detached mode. So I'll do a Docker, if you haven't guessed, attach, and I'll give it the name of the container that I want to attach to. Now I'm going to add one more thing to this, and that is -- detached keys equals, and in quotes, I'm going to do a control-d. For some reason in Windows or even on a Mac, the Control-A, which is the shortcut command you will type on your keyboard in order to exit gracefully out of a Docker container that you've attached to without killing the container, which I'll go into more depth in a second, doesn't work, and that's the Control-P. So that's the default, but for some reason it doesn't work, always for me at least. So you have this option here to remap that shortcut. So I'll hit enter here. And it's not detached, it's detach. So let's just correct that. There's once in a while we make a mistake. We are now attached to this container. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit and watch what happens here. Echo, hello world. I'm attached to the container in the shell as root. I am the same user as I have in this first window. So no matter what I do, it'll be echoed because it's the same session that's being utilized here. So that's why this example is not the best, but it's good for instructional, as you can see here. So I hit enter, and you'll see that hello world shows up on both screens. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit that Control D. That Control D will allow us to exit out of this attached session and detach us gracefully. So I'll hit the Control D. You'll see a read escape sequence has happened, and I'm back out. Now, I'm going to immediately go back in again, and we'll do it without the detached. It wouldn't have mattered if I kept that command in there, by the way. But watch what happens now. If I do a clear, both screens clear. If I do an exit, though, to exit out of my session here that I did, I'm also issuing that exit, and my container is pretty much stopped and removed at this point. If I do a docker ps, there's nothing there. The ps-a will expose that other container that we used at the beginning of this lesson. If I want to clean up my Docker window so that we don't have this here, I'm going to do a docker remove, and I can type in the name of the Docker container, which is right here, or, which is even easier, just the first couple of letters of the Docker ID, which is my preferred method. So I hit that there. Quick review, we have no processes running, no Docker containers running at the time at all, not even stopped within the daemon. We have gone over now docker attach. So the second command that I want to talk about in this video is docker execute. Docker execute allows us to execute a command within our container from our hosted system. In our case, the Microsoft Windows system. I'm doing that from within the Ubuntu 2004 app on the Windows subsystem for Linux as well. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and start up our container. Again, we're utilizing the Docker run interactive mode, removing the container, connecting our volume, giving it a name, and running it in bash, which we're getting a little more accustomed to now. Let's minimize this window to keep it clean and open up our secondary shell. So we have this Docker container running right now in the background. And if we do a docker ps, we'll see that it's been up for about a minute. Docker, well, before we even do that, let's take a look in our directory. We have this hello world text file that we're going to use for this particular demonstration. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and update this text file to say, thank you for watching Learning with NetMet today. We're going to append it to the hello world text file. Hit enter, and I get a permission denied. Why did that happen? Well, it looks like we're in as the NetMet username, and the file is owned by root. Since this is owned by root, obviously we can't update it. So let's quickly update it by issuing a sudo su. That'll switch us to the root. And then I'll copy and paste this into our window. Let's do a cat against the file. And we have thank you for watching Learning with NetMet today. Great. So let's exit out of there, come back over to here. Now, we have this Docker container running. Generally, we would do these type of commands against a detached container that's basically running in the background, but easier to work with and demonstrate with this Ubuntu container. Okay. Docker execute, the name of the container that we want to execute against, and then the command that we want to do, which in our case is going to be cat/data hello world.txt, because we know that this file should be in our data directory attached to our container. So when I hit enter here, gives it a second, and it connects to the container, execute the command of doing a catalog against the data hello world text. The information that we appended to that text previously is there, and that is our Docker execute command. Obviously, we can do a lot more elaborate things when you're dealing with systems engineering and you need to get things off of your container, whether it's information, stats, log files, etc., like that. We learned about Docker exec and Docker attached, and a little hint of the detach keys that you can add so that you can gracefully exit out of a container without exiting it in a non-nefarious way. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.